the regular meeting of the Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission. Where did my agenda go? Where's your agenda? Okay. All right, to start, is there any public participation for an item that is not on our agenda? Okay. And I see no permit extensions.
No permit extensions. I do have a wetlands officer's report, which we can get to later, but
Okay.
no permit extensions that I know of.
All right, thank you. Correspondence and report. I think the commission all got the notice about the spotted lanternfly in their packets. Okay. Bonds?
No bonds.
All right. Minutes of our last meeting. I saw them, they looked accurate to me. Did anybody have any corrections or? Very complete. Very good. Okay. Will someone care to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, we have minutes. All right. Oh, she had put, okay, Conservation Commission, she had the lanternfly listed. All right, Justin, would you give the wetland officer report, please?
Sure. So this is the wetlands officer's report on behalf of Autumn Burke, environmental planner and conservation officer. From the date of July 16th through September 3rd, the following are some of the permits and activities during July to September. Application 25-34W, minimal impact for a 1,200 square foot detached garage at 437 Clark Street. The garage was proposed within the upland review area of the boundary. After a site visit, it was observed that a vegetated buffer surrounds and protects the wetland area. Before issuing the minimal impact, I had the homeowner clarify the proposed grades, the extent of disturbance, and verify the soil scientist who flagged the wetlands. Mark Sullivan flagged the property on July 25th, 2020. The application was submitted on August 2nd, 2025, and approved August 13th, 2025. The legal notice was published on August 14th, 2025. Additionally, there is a report for erosion and sedimentation inspection sites. 186 Foster Street on August 13th, 2025. We received 1 inch of rain in 20 minutes. During that time, myself and the assistant planner, that would be me, were on site during this rain event. While out in the rain event on water, was seen, stormwater runoff was seen coming down Foster Street, entering the construction entrance and picking up sediment. Temporary asphalt curbing that abuts the construction entrance has been installed. Silt fence has been reinforced and repaired in a few areas surrounding the site. Additional core logs have also been installed at the base of the slope abutting the wetland, and additional check dams and hay bales have been added as well. Second item, Aldi Distribution Center. The parking lot, queuing lane, and extra parking has been completed. Few areas near the newly installed drainage depression have some bare earth and a few repairs are needed. It has been acknowledged and they will be working on repairing the area. Third item being 500 Sullivan Avenue. The site has been cleared and silt fence has been installed. The excavation company called for an inspection of the silt fence. It was found that 2 areas of silt fence had not been trenched. Since then, the silt fence has been repaired. Fourth item being 249 Oakland Road. The hay bales on site have been removed and silt fence has been installed instead. They are working on getting the silt fence trenched in and backfilled. That concludes the wetlands report.
Thank you. All right, we have now the continued public hearing for application 25-28P, Estates at 100 Oakland. So we were in the middle of the public comment. Would you like, okay, I see the applicant has risen. Peter, would you like to make an introductory comment?
Yes, I'd
Good evening, Chairman Kelly, Vice Chairman Phillips, and other members of the Inland Wetlands Agency. For your record, I'm Peter DeMalley, President and CEO of Design Professionals, Inc., 18-person consulting practice right here at 58H Connecticut Avenue. We were retained by Mr. James Newbury, the applicant in the second row, to provide services, civil engineering, land planning, landscape architecture, and land surveying services for this proposed development. I'm just going to give a quick little summary of what it is, if you'd like. There's some people who are new tonight.
I think most people probably aren't new, but,
Okay.
and, I mean, a real brief one would be okay.
Okay.
I think most people are here because they're familiar.
Okay. Let me just give a couple quick highlights. 2 minutes. It's a 69 home development designed for people who are 55 and older, also known as an active adult retirement community, and the Planning and Zoning Commission identifies these as senior residence developments, which is the focus of what they'd like to do. Right now we have a crisis in the schools of full schools exceeding some capacities, so they wanted to go that direction. So they've changed the regulations, allow for these developments, and have modified them, including the number of units in the development. So what Mr. Newbury had a vision for is this development on his 35 acres of land. He'd still cut out his house lot, but the balance of it, 32.5 acres for this active adult retirement community, where people can retire age in place and retire in a home and in a community designed for them. So we have, on this site, we have, as I mentioned, about 32 acres. About 12 acres of that are not to be touched, remain woods and wetlands. We have, I think it's roughly 3% of disturbance of wetlands, which we're going to review. So 97% are not touched. And all of that occurs where there is a proposed bridge crossing, a span, so we don't have to disturb the wetlands below unnecessarily. So we're doing a bridge span. Right now it's proposed to be 60 feet in length so that we don't disturb the small brook, intermittent watercourse, we call it, right below. Sometimes it runs a lot. It's a very small channel, and there are times, just like the watercourse behind the town hall, there are times it can go for many weeks without any flow whatsoever because it drains through beautiful, well-drained soils. So we have a very small amount of wetlands disturbance. It's just over 4 acres of wetlands on the site. We're going to be discussing what we're doing for that. Let me just review the team that we have here tonight. We have, from our staff at Design Professionals, Barbara Schmidt, who's in the front row, sitting next to me there. She is a project manager with Design Professionals. She's been a landscape architect, seasoned landscape architect. She's also a LEED accredited professional, and she's a licensed landscape architect in the state of Connecticut and state of Massachusetts. She's our project manager. Also sitting to her right, your left, is Daniel Jameson. He's a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. He's our director of engineering. He's been working for us for over 10 years. Many of you have heard his presentations on many occasions, including at the July 16th hearing. He'll be reviewing the civil engineering aspects of the changes we've made, often at the behest of the commission and staff, so we'll be reviewing those items tonight. Also with us, and I'm also on the team, of course, as principal for this project. Also we have Ian Cole, who is a wetland scientist, made a presentation last time. He submitted an additional report and some additional information. He's going to review that information from a perspective of wetlands and soil scientist expert in terms of what we have there for wetland resources, what we're doing, and how we're either impacting them or improving them. So he'll be discussing that. We also added to the team George Logan, Remo Ecological Services. Most of you commissioners have been on for a while, know George well. He's opined on other projects as well. But he's been brought in here because, in particular, we wanted to focus on the one area of wetlands disturbance, proposed wetlands disturbance, which is the brook crossing. And what we can do to realign and restore that brook so the sins of the past development there, it was agricultural community, lots of agriculture and other things. Dams have been there, filling in this area where we're proposing the crossing for prior crossings, and so it was impacted. So we want to restore that and refurbish it and renovate it so that it's a wonderful wetland resource and hopefully a better wetland resource when we're done with it. So we brought in George Logan and his staff to look at that, how we can improve the watercourse in its present condition, which was damaged previously, and to make it a better one on an ongoing basis that will not cause all kinds of erosion like it is today, because it would cause it to turn 2 major turns in it, and we're having erosion there from that as a result of that. So George will be addressing that, other aspects of the site, opining on the overall development and wetlands impact and wetland resources as Ian is. So incidentally, we've submitted for your edification resumes of the team members who are participating in tonight's meeting. So I'd like to just get into, what I'll do is I'll move quickly into our presentations because that's what we're here for. Let's go discuss the impacts we have, what we're proposing to do, what we're doing to mitigate those impacts, overall landscape architectural components. We're primarily using native species of plant materials on the site, lots of pollinators, lots of plant materials and other measures so that we can stabilize the soils. Many of you know that these soils are virtually identical to the soils at the sand and gravel pit at Mitchell Head, right around the corner of Sullivan Avenue and Ellington Road. And those have been used very effectively, even at 1 Buckland Road, the development where you get urgent care, if you know that. And in the back we have, it's even 2-to-1 slopes, the same soils, and they're fully stabilized even though they're on top of even a large tall retaining wall. So it works well. It's easy to stabilize those. They just have to follow normal protocol in our designs. And one other incident I wanted to bring to your attention that Mr. Newberry, there's been a lot of public comment on this, both online and other measures, even at the last hearing. And Mr. Newberry has offered to meet with any neighbors who would like to meet with him. He's done that publicly. He even has a website people can go to, but he has offered to do that. And he's started to meet with people. He's met with a number of people over the months, in fact, over the years, some people, but he's also met with people of late, some of the concerned residents, and he continues to offer to do that. And just thought I'd bring that to your edification. So what we'd like to do, the order we're going in is Barb Schmidt will go next. She'll give you some overview. She'll even give you a blow-up of the area as an exhibit area of the stream crossing and exactly what we're doing. How we're mitigating it? Are we creating new wetlands? Are we refurbishing existing disturbed wetlands resources, and what we're doing with that? She's going to start. She'll be followed by Ian Cole, who'll update what his presentation from last time on the 16th of July. And then it'll be followed by Daniel Jameson, who will update you on what he's done with respect to the civil engineering aspects, this erosion sedimentation control, water quality, stormwater management, those types of things, and the overall design at the crossing. And then the last presenter we have tonight is George Logan. He'll present his report, which I believe has been circulated to the commissioners, so that you will have, he'll review what his findings were, he'll opine on what he thinks we should be doing and his recommendations, and he even has some opportunities to go beyond what we have on our plan if the commission is so inclined. So what I'd like to do is turn it over to Barb Schmidt, if we may.
Okay, all right. The commission will appreciate updates, particularly if they're addressing comments or questions that came out of the earlier public hearing. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that we then also get back to any final questions from this commission to get, I don't want it to turn into a seesaw kind of thing, you know, right. Applicant comments. So we'll stick to your update. We'll get to some public comments, remaining ones, and then we'll have the commission's comments and questions, should any remain. Is that? Sure. Okay.
That was our expectation it would occur like that, yeah.
I didn't know about, you know, that you were coming with additional information that I hadn't seen in my packet and didn't realize that at that point. Okay, so we have a game plan. everybody's comfortable, we should cover the information needed.
And we look forward to hearing from comments from the public, and we also look forward to hearing from questions and comments from the commission. We'll respond.
You're better than, right?
Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. All right.
Hi, good evening, welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to explain the site plan a little bit clearer. Make sure it sees it all. Just wanted to clear up and clarify some of the disturbance numbers. The proposed site with this lot line revision is approximately 32 acres. Of this 32 acres, 20 acres will be disturbed to construct the senior community. 12 acres will remain. Here's the site with the intermittent stream coming along here and the flagged wetland boundary. So I took the opportunity to just update this rendering and add color to the wetland area. So the wetland is all in this yellow-green area here. The side of this wetland is along the tree line, so it's sort of hidden in there, but the whole side of the wetland is undisturbed, all along the tree line and all the way up through here, all undisturbed. By having most of this development on the side along the current conventional single-family subdivision to the east and the bridge crossing at the wetland's smallest point here, so it's like the wetland is this wide here, and it wouldn't be crossable there. So this is the smallest point right here. The plan is showing, with this development over here, the plan shows a naturally vegetated area coming from north all the way south. That will remain and will leave 97.44% of the wetlands undisturbed. And the bridge is an excellent feature to keep it all connected. The history of the site, being partially farmland and with drained farm ponds, has left many disturbed areas that left it vulnerable to infestation by invasive species over time, such as burning bush and Japanese knotweed. These species reduce diversity and restrict future forest growth and current wildlife movement. Due to the existing conditions on the site that will remain even, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay. Might have to show it in pieces, but this thing remain even in due to the existing conditions on site that will remain even in the undisturbed areas after development. It is important to make sure that the proposed planting plan includes a diverse variety of native plantings. We have native street trees all along the streets, ornamental flowering trees, shrubs, perennials, and seed mixes shown on this plan, and more for each individual housing unit, along with invasive species removal measures. The proposed plantings will greatly improve the overall diversity on site, even in the remaining forested areas, and will be beneficial to wildlife. So here with the zoom in, you can see sort of an overlap where the tree line is, so we'll have this undisturbed, this whole side, that's all the wetland line here. And this is the undisturbed, this is the tree line to remain around here. So none of this wetland is proposed to be disturbed, it's all being regraded with detention basins. In addition to the wildlife garden, which is going to be here by the community building, that will have even more plantings for pollinators and ponds to support birds and other wildlife. There's a showy wildflower seed mix proposed throughout the site that will have native wildflowers and grasses that will mature into colorful and vibrant meadows that will make the entire site even more pollinator friendly and will support overall biodiversity. So in any of the areas on the site that don't have cultivated lawn, so the areas right near the units will have cultivated lawn, and in any disturbed areas that'll just be graded, and in the back and along some pockets in the middle of the community, we'll have this vibrant meadow mix. So this graphic shows the existing on-site wetlands that make up about 4.37 acres, or 13.4% of the site, shown here in the yellow-green color, within the flag symbol. These wetlands lie within the 12 acres of undisturbed areas to remain, aside from the small amount of disturbance at the bridge crossing at the smallest width of wetlands in this area. The small amount of permanent disturbance for this crossing is less than 1,200 square feet. So you can see a little bit of blue there. I will have an enlargement in a second. But the amount of permanent disturbance is about 0.6% of the total wetlands. Along with the temporary disturbed areas, the total wetland disturbance is less than 5,000 square feet, or 2.56% of the on-site wetlands. The yellow hatched areas in here, they show where there's a wetland mitigation seed mix that will have a wide variety of native seeds suitable for restoring and creating wetlands. So this area here is going to be blown up in this graphic so we can all see it a little better. So, when Autumn had her comments, she made a comment that the chart was a little confusing, so this wetland table has been revised to make it a little more clear. And thanks for letting me show this graphic. This graphic wasn't at the last presentation, but the revision is quite similar to what we had before. There was a little bit of stream restoration edits and the numbers changed slightly, but it's all basically the same. So this graphic here, the nice blow up, shows the only wetland disturbance proposed for this entire development. The yellow area for the wetland seed mix in the previous graphic is seen here with this wiggle hatch. It's in the green areas and the yellow areas. It shows the wetland seed mix at the wetland mitigation areas, shown in yellow and green. The wetland flag boundary can be seen. So you can see the S-curve, sort of a backward S-curve here. So it's a historically disturbed area that used to be an earthen dam for a farming pond, but that's why it has this shape that's so odd. The bridge will be constructed at the smallest point wetland crossing to respect the existing wetlands and is an extra consideration by our applicant, Jim, to supply a bridge for this crossing to have the minimum amount of wetland disturbance possible and will allow us to have a continuous wetland mitigation area and a quality stream restoration plan. So obviously the bridge, the road just stopped, so the bridge goes here, so it's kind of an invisible bridge. So the bridge abutments have the only areas of permanent wetland fill that are shown here in blue. So in this area here and in this area here are our only permanent wetland fill areas. And that's a permanent disturbance of 1,182 square feet and is approximately 0.62% of the site wetlands. The yellow areas totaling 3,702 square feet are mitigation areas within the existing wetland flag boundary that will be disturbed during construction, regraded, part of the stream restoration plan as well, and are to be restored as wetlands. So that's all this area here. It's within the S-curve, and then we will put wetland seeding, wetland plants, and that'll be restored as wetlands in the future. So the blue and the yellow areas together represent the total wetland disturbance of 4,884 square feet, or 0.11 acre, and is 2.56 of the on-site wetlands. That's the total disturbance, 2.56% of the total wetlands on site. The green areas are outside the wetland flag boundaries and are areas of wetland creation that will mitigate the loss of the blue areas. So all of these green areas are outside the current flag boundary of the wetlands and will be the new wetland created areas. So you can see that the green mitigation areas are much larger than the blue areas. The loss of the approximately 1,184 square feet of fill wetlands will be mitigated by approximately 5,324 square feet of created areas for a mitigation ratio of over 4 to 1, and leaves us with an additional 4,142 square feet of additional proposed wetlands. Overall, 4.26 acres, or 97.44% of the existing 4.37 acres of the existing wetlands will not be disturbed Plus, with the created wetlands, we will see an overall increase of the existing 4.37 acres by 0.1 for a proposed 4.38 acres on the site wetlands in total. And with the wetland restoration seed mix, native wetland shrubs, and stream restoration plan that Daniel will discuss when he talks, the stream restoration plan has live plantings within the stream bank stabilization measures. All of those together are to provide a better functioning wetland and intermittent stream system than what exists in this area today. Overall, the design of the site and the bridge crossing has endeavored to respect the existing wetland system, and with this localized disturbance and mitigation efforts, we believe the project does respect and improve the existing system. And at this point, I'd like to hand this over to Ian Cole, a project wetland scientist, and he can discuss the wetlands in detail. Bring this back a little. How's that?
That's great, thanks. Good evening. For the record, Ian Cole, professional soil scientist. I'm the soil scientist of record for this application. I completed the wetland delineation in October of 2024. I've been on site a dozen plus times at this point for various site walks and investigations. I've provided a report to the commission that goes over a description of the wetland community, which I'll give a quick highlight here. I provided a function and value assessment, and I worked with the project team to help minimize and mitigate impacts associated with the development. As we've heard, this site's a 32-acre site. Roughly about 4.7 acres of it is a wetland. Roughly 20 acres will be cleared, centered on the northeast corner to host the development of 69 units. This will leave approximately 12 acres of open space, including the wetlands, preserved in perpetuity. The wetlands on this property are associated with an unnamed watercourse that flows south through the western side of the property. Currently, the property's wooded, but as we've heard here, previously the site was at least partially farmed up into the 1960s. On the site walk, we pointed out where some of those old barn locations were and some of the fields. Since then, the property is now vegetated again and is forested. There's a second wetland finger that extends to the east up towards the Scott Drive subdivision. This wetland in the eastern limits of it has a lot of steep topography and a lot of erosion stemming from the outlet of those subdivisions that have caused a lot of erosion on the hillside. REMA has some photos, some updated photos, I think, that they entered into the record that kind of demonstrate the extent of, the ongoing erosion from those outfall locations. And I think there's been some discussion with the proposal to date that this project would essentially allow constructability access to maybe address some of those issues. As detailed in the wetland report submitted into the record, the wetlands were evaluated, their functions and values using the Army Corps of Engineers highway methodology. It's kind of the industry standard evaluation. In a general sense, the primary function of the wetlands is groundwater discharge. The stream is an expression of groundwater discharge. Also groundwater recharge. The wetlands are underlain by sandy substrate. The secondary functions here are sediment and toxicant retention and nutrient attenuation. These are essentially water quality functions of the wetland. The beneficial function part of the wetland associated with the water quality are kind of those previously impounded areas where the topography is more generally flat and you get an accumulation of wetland soils, so you have organics on top of sands. And lastly, the general principal function of the wetland is general wildlife attributes. The virtue that the wetland system is part of a stream belt, although acknowledging, as detailed in the report, that the entire landscape throughout this parcel is degraded by the ubiquitous cover of burning bush. And what that does is, while you may have, a diverse canopy cover of trees, the understory basically gets a monoculture of one plant that It doesn't have pollinator attributes. It really can even provide a physical barrier to wildlife movement to some degree. It also, outshades the understory of the forest significantly, so you don't get any herbs on the forest floor, so you get increased runoff a lot of times as a result of this. There's been a lot of mitigation of burning bush in town. Good demonstration site right behind Town Hall here. That should be noted, but wildlife is one of the principal functions, and I know there's a lot of discussion amongst the public about wildlife. As part of the due diligence for this project, we completed not only review of the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection and Natural Diversity Database wildlife maps, which are publicly available maps that show state records for known potential locations of either state-listed species or natural wildlife communities that are protected. The available mappings show that this site is absent. I mean, largely, this portion of South Windsor doesn't have any polygons nearby it. Furthermore, in response to just hearing the general comments on wildlife, the project because eventually they're going to have to get a stormwater permit because we have over 5 acres of clearing here. They'll need to go through the process of DEEP, of going through the natural diversity database. So we preemptively did the preliminary review assessment tool online, which generates an auto response. That's kind of your starting point for your consultation with DEEP. And that indicates that there are no species on site. So it collaborates with what the available mapping is. Keep in mind, just for the general public's knowledge, because this project will be disturbing more than 5 acres in size, outside of just the local permits, they're required to get an additional stormwater permit from DEEP. And in that permit process, there's additional consultation through the DEEP Wildlife Division. So I think that's something to be noted. As we've heard, the crossing site here, chosen specifically at a narrow point in the wetlands to minimize impacts. It was chosen at a location of historic impact. Generally speaking, the permanent impacts here are going to be de minimis down to 1,200 square feet. It's being mitigated at a 4-to-1 ratio. The new updates, George Logan here is going to go into some more detail. Essentially, in looking at where the stream was, there's an opportunity, if you remember on the sidewalk, right at the stream location, there's a natural head cut has developed where there's a grade change, and so there's an ongoing source of sedimentation. This would provide an opportunity to secure that area in a better way, to improve the flow dynamics of the water course. With that being said, there really is no less impactful way to cross the wetland at this point. And by virtue of using the bridge, really reduces the impacts. And it's also noted that, the big benefit of the bridge is that you get an instantaneous passage of all storms for flow. And it's also not going to provide any impediment for wildlife movement. So, for those two aspects, it's a really good crossing location. In closing, I guess, in the interest of time here, I would say, in my professional opinion, I don't believe this proposal is going to have a negative effect on the wetland resources. This is primarily because the proposed activities will improve the natural flow dynamics of the wetland. Again, George is going to give some more details on the stream crossing, where there's that ongoing source of erosion and sedimentation. The proposal is going to mitigate the impact of that 1,200 square feet by providing new wetland creation at a 4-to-1 ratio. This new wetland creation will help increase the wetland capacity, so it's not diminishing the wetland ability. Thirdly, the plans provide a detailed erosion and sediment control plan. This includes both phasing, monitoring, and reporting. The stormwater treatment design, which we'll hear in detail from the project engineer for the public's benefit, it was designed with the current regulations, and embedded in those regulations are calculations and things that capture things like climate change. So where the old regulations, you design to 1 inch, now you design to 1.3 inches. So they've increased, for to accommodate for those changes and increased storms and intensities that people are experiencing. And then I think the fifth point that's noted is, that this site is sewered, so you're not really having to deal with the discharge of soluble nitrates. That's just not an issue with this subject, with this property. And then acknowledging again that, this isn't a proposal that's clear cutting this land, it's preserving 12 acres, including all the wetlands. And at the end of the day, the project will leave more wetlands on site than what's existing there today, with a full functioning wetland system, as George will detail here. I'm available for questioning afterwards, but I guess with that said, I'll pass it over to, is Daniel going next, or is George? Daniel.
Thank you, Ian. Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, I'm Daniel Jameson, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut and director of engineering at Design Professionals. And just a quick recap on some of the stormwater measures proposed. We're going to be doing, in order to control the runoff generated from the proposed construction activity, we are proposing 4 water quality basins. The water quality basins, just to recap, will be located, I guess it's better from the overall picture anyway, but we will have 1 water quality basin on the west side of the proposed access drive along Oakland Road. Another one, AI is always buttoning. There's another one proposed on the east side of the drive access from Oakland Road. We have underground.
Do you think you could zoom in just
Zoom
a
in
bit?
a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
over on that. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
no problem. There's an underground detention system proposed just after the proposed bridge location on the north side that will convey or collect all of the runoff from the roadways and houses on the east side of the brook. And then we also are proposing another water quality infiltration basin in this location to also help control the runoff from the east side of the intermittent brook. So essentially the big change to the plan from an engineering perspective was the addition of a stream relocation plan, basically based on some of the comments from the commissioners last time. We left the stream very tight to the abutments in order to minimize disturbance, but after hearing your comments, we softened the layout of the stream in order to kind of put it back to what we anticipated was before these embankments were created. So with that, we straightened the stream out and added an additional 800 square feet of wetlands disturbance to do so. But essentially the stream was designed to convey the 25-year storm based on Connecticut DOT requirements for stream crossing that collects or has receiving watershed of less than 1 square mile. Based on USGS Stream Stats web application, which is an online application that provides resources for design and considerations of stream flows, we determined that the drainage area to this point is approximately half a square mile. And with that, it also provided peak flows that we designed the stream crossing to, or the stream relocation to. And with that, we worked with George Logan of REMA Ecological Services to come up with some bioengineering proposed protection of the banks, which with that we came to the conclusion on these double rows of core logs to be installed with live fascines or live tubulings if they're to be dormant. And those live fascines or basically live stakes would either be willow or dogwood. That was one of the comments from Miss Autumn Burke, the environmental planner. So we are intending it to be either willow or dogwood to be installed on a 4-foot spacing if it's dormant, or a 3-foot spacing if it's to be live. So those would line the center or line the banks of the new proposed channel. The channel is proposed to be 5 feet wide at its skinniest point based on observation of the existing stream channel. We wanted to mimic the existing condition of the existing upstream sections and downstream sections, which have a approximate 5-foot channel bottom, and then it tapers up into the vegetative riparian area. So with that, we also are proposing some armoring at the north side of the eastern abutment, where that water from one of the two stream channels that actually feed to create this single stream here, that abutment will be designed based on the velocity flowing through that point, which we observed for a 25-year storm was less than, was about 5 feet per second. So with that, we chose intermediate riprap based on recommendations in the Connecticut DOT drainage manuals for design of bridges. And then we also proposed a little preformed scour pool to kind of take up a grade change and also just enable this to be flatter than what it is today. The downstream sections is approximately 0.8%. So we proposed this at approximately 0.5% to kind of mimic that downstream section as close as possible, also to slow the water down, limit the erosive velocities. And then we're also proposing, I'll zoom in a little bit, some riprap stone toe protection at the outside bends of the stream to stop from eroding those banks as the stream is making its changes through this channel section. We propose, or in our drainage report, we provided cross sections and velocity flow data. If there's any questions on those, I'm certainly available to answer any questions. I do want to go through just two comments that we got. One, or first from Jeff Doolittle, and then some comments from Ms. Autumn Burke that we received, or Town Engineering Department. And essentially it was related to the ENS and the phasing of the project. So with that, I'm going to switch to our erosion control exhibit here. And I'm just going to zoom into the stream crossing section. So essentially, before the bridge is installed, we are going to construct this temporary stream crossing that is intended to remain for approximately 2 years. Essentially what the goal is that our client is looking to be able to clear and get to rough grade and stabilize the sections up to for the whole site essentially in 5-acre increments, of course. And that'll enable him to get the clearing, the final or kind of rough grading, stabilize it, and then come back to the stream to build the bridge later on in after like the first year of the construction, once the rough grading and the construction of the walls is complete. So with that, the stream crossing is intended to remain for a 2-year term. And Ms. Autumn Burke requested that we look at the impact rating tables that are now in the new 2024 erosion and sedimentation control guidelines. And essentially we reviewed the impact rating tables from DOT and found that we should design the stream crossing based on its timeline of being there for 2 years for a 5-year storm. So with that, we will be in a future submission showing we have space and we can provide 1 36-inch pipe to convey that stream temporarily. And essentially on the uphill side of it, we are going to have a cofferdam that we're proposing to be installed once the utilities that we're proposing to be installed underneath the stream that would remain to allow the water to be routed around that work if necessary. And then that would be directed to the temporary crossing, which would then convey the stream to a temporary line channel and where the water would then enter into the existing stream point at that time. So that will remain in place for approximately 2 years. I would say after year 1, that's when the construction of the bridge and the kind of the east side of the brook, that work would be pretty much stable, wrapped up, and it'll allow for us, considering 5 acres of disturbance minimum, to work on this bridge while there's other little fine tuning going on around the site to keep the disturbance to a 5-acre minimum. So that was in regards to the erosion control and then the cofferdams as well. So as I said, I'm available to answer any questions on any of the comments received, but in the interest of time, I'll just keep that to my presentation to that, and I'll pass it over to Mr. George Logan to wrap it up.
Somewhere in here, there's an arrow, right? Oh, there it is. Whoop.
Your pictures?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right. How do I get out? Oops. Got it. Okay, got it, yeah. Well, hello, everyone. George Logan for the record. I'm glad to be before you once again. But because this is a public hearing, I need to kind of put into the record some of my qualifications. So just briefly, I hold a master's degree in natural resources science with a concentration in wildlife management and conservation biology. I hold several certifications as a soil scientist, like my colleague, as a wetland scientist, like my colleague. Also, as a certified senior ecologist through the Ecological Society of America, and also I've been practicing as a wildlife biologist for close to about 37 years now. So my tasks were fairly simple. I needed to conduct some site visits on the site, kind of familiarize myself with the site, especially concentrating on the wetlands and, more importantly, the wetland crossing. As you heard from Daniel, we had some conversations about it. Then I also reviewed the wetlands assessment or evaluation that was produced by my colleague. Thirdly, I reviewed a concern that had been put forth by the neighbors regarding whether this was a wildlife corridor of some sort. Let's speak about that. Again, reviewed the stream crossing and made recommendations on that. Reviewed the mitigation plan and made some recommendations which I'll speak to. And finally, well, not finally, I did look at feasible and prudent alternatives just because that's one of the things that the Commission always looks at. And also looked at a question that was posed to me regarding to what extent the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers would have jurisdiction over this. I know it's not your jurisdiction, but it was a question. I'd be more than happy to answer that. So on the wetlands, again, we visited the site on July 31st, and that was with Ian, who kind of put me around because I had no idea what to look at, so he was able to bring me in. We did a big loop and looked at the resources. Then on August 5th, I returned with my colleague, which you also probably know, Sigrid Gadwa, who couldn't be here today. She was supposed to be at another meeting, and she was partially also author to the report. And then on the next day, which was the 6th, I went back to the site with Daniel and also Mr. DeMali, and we focused mostly on the wetland crossing to sort of explore the different things we wanted to do there to improve geometry and do some mitigation. Looking at Ian's report, we agreed with his characterization, we agreed with his functional value analyses. We made a recommendation, as you probably saw from the report, which is dated August 13th, that we recommended a conservative phasing plan, and I think we've started to see that come to fruition. We noted that and agreed with Ian that there was a proliferation of invasive species that really, if left unchecked, will just get worse. That's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. In the uplands, obviously, we have the burning bush. I guess that's an apt name for an invasive. And of course, we have infestations of the nori weed, or as I call it, the Japanese knotweed, which has invaded the wetlands, and I'll speak about that in a moment. Also, we have Phragmites, and hopefully I won't blind anyone. The Phragmites patches in this general location partially has to do with the fact that there's been unmitigated drainage off an old constructed subdivision when people didn't look at doing the kinds of things that we do today. And also, as looking back, not only necessarily at the aerial photographs, but looking at the physiography of the actual site, with the exception that I do see a pond here in one of the aerial photographs, 1934, but it's very obvious that there were agricultural ponds here. And what happens with the agricultural ponds, all this sediment accumulates in the bottom, is extremely fertile. There's organics there too. And then it drains out, and it leaves an area that's still a regulated wetland, but it's kind of more moist than wet. And so a species like Japanese knotweed, which is not really a wetland plant, it's more a facultative upland plant, has proliferated, and it's a big issue. And I'll show you some pictures on that in a moment. So we agreed in general with what Ian said in his recommendations and his analyses. The second thing we looked at was this whole question of a wildlife corridor. So what I'll do here is I'll go to, where am I here? Keep going.
arrow. Yeah,
There we
there you
go. Where am I? Okay, I'm here. All right, so this is an aerial photograph. I could have zoomed out or I could have zoomed in, but I thought this was a good way of looking at it. So what we see here is, obviously we have a stream. We have another stream that we know that's coming through here, and then eventually it goes to a perennial stream. Now, another question has come up as to whether this is an intermittent stream, is it a perennial stream, is it a semi-perennial stream, does such thing exist? Semi-perennial stream is a higher order intermittent stream. My analysis is, and what I noticed is that the upper portions of the stream dry sooner than the latter portions. And once you get to past the confluence, I would hazard a guess that this now has become a perennial stream, partially because of all the water that's coming off the subdivision, and there's groundwater involved there too, as you probably know. At least in my subdivision, I go over catch basins and I listen. Water running all the time because it's grabbing groundwater. So I'm sure that's the case from this large subdivision here. So this section is probably perennial, and I believe that the upper section is intermittent. So what you see here is a block of forest. What you also see is two major thoroughways. One up here, state route, and one down here. In essence, from a wildlife perspective, you have an isolated fragmented patch. It is isolated fragmented patch for some species, but not for others. The neighbors have been so kind as providing a laundry list of wildlife that occur here, and I wasn't surprised at all with what they put there. Is this a wildlife corridor? Okay, well, the resident species here and also the ones that come through as migrants, if they're here, they will travel through down to there. And if they're there, they can travel back up to there. I guess that's a corridor. And the question is this crossing going to impede the resident wildlife species? And the ones that are adapted to suburbia, we all have them: white-tailed deer, coyotes, opossums, raccoons, foxes, fisher cats, yes, they do exist. They won't be dissuaded, so they can go from off-site portions in the dark of night when everyone's sleeping, except people like me that like sometimes to travel early in the mornings, and you can see them, especially when the snow's out. That's a fun time. So they cross the landscape. This doesn't dissuade them. So wildlife corridors, and if you look at it from a landscape ecology perspective, there are ones that link special habitats or significant habitats, and we don't have any significant needs for significant linkages with other habitats here, because this is in a suburban area. It's surrounded by all kinds of blockages and impediments to many species, especially the ones that we would call more sensitive or rare or uncommon. So in the post-construction phase, this will still continue to be a wildlife corridor. All right, so the crossing. I think if anything, that's where we did a lot of thinking. We note, as you've probably been out there and seen, you have almost two 90-degree bends. So when this dam many, many years ago breached, it found a breaching point and took almost a 90-degree, and then followed the embankment, and then took another 90-degree almost. And that area has been eroding continually for decades. And unfortunately, as you know, because of climate change and what we're seeing, all documented, that's only going to get worse. Accelerated erosion is what's happening here because of the fact that we have storms that are more and more intense as the years go by. And of course, he knows that, and he's accommodated it because he has to as a design engineer. So what we did there, we saw that there's severe erosion. We saw that there was this S-curve, and we thought that probably the best thing to do is to kind of straighten it as much as possible, while at the same time not disturbing his wetlands to the extent possible. And then we said, okay, well, we looked at the soils. I mean, they're exposed in the banks, and these are fine-grained sands for the most part, and whatever other stuff is accumulated on the bottom, which is some of the finer stuff too. And we said, okay, we need to, in order for these banks, the new banks, to be stable, we have to do some extraordinary things. And I've had some experience with bioengineering and several projects in the past, and so we've used these bioengineering methods, which you've probably seen before. And just to kind of describe them, the first thing he has to do is to tell me how wide the channel has to be for, you know, most storms, not all storms, but say the 2-year storm would be sort of one that we would be looking at. That sort of tells me where the channel is going to be. And so that 2-year storm going by, we stabilize by using those coir logs. You've probably seen them. They're 18 inches or more. They're heavy as heck once they get wet, but water can move them. So what happens is we usually butt two together. It's a slight angle, one slightly above the other. We stake them really, really hard, and then we twine them. So we tie them down, so they're not going to move. And then what we do, and realizing that, you know, in 10 years, 5-10 years, they're going to disintegrate, we use either the dormant fascines, those are whips from willows or dogwoods, and we kind of embed them in there during the off-season, and then when the growing season comes, they just sprout, and they make a literal jungle. And I could bring you some pictures of examples. You can't even see through. Or if we have to do this during the growing season, then we use the little tubulings, which are basically same species, but they're live. They're smaller, and we embed them, but we put them a little closer to each other. And of course, Daniel realized that we still have a little bit of a bend. So as the water comes around, we have to protect that side a little more. So he's done, from an engineering perspective, what had to be done. Okay, so that was picture number one, and I'll show you some photos of what I've been talking about in a few minutes. But let me go to the next. Well, let me say this in passing as a conclusion. This plan will actually improve the situation long-term that we have at this crossing. There's no doubt about it in my mind. All right, so mitigation. So I reviewed the mitigation plan. It's a standard mitigation plan that you would see, 4-to-1, which is usually more than what we usually give. We usually go to 2-to-1. 4-to-1 is better, obviously. And it's all localized. So there's opportunities for creation. Those were the green areas. There's opportunities for restoration. Those were the yellow areas. And that's all good. However, I like to kind of think out of the box a little bit. So let's see if I can go to the next slide. How do you do that? Wow. I'm getting good at this. All right, this is not a very, it's the best picture I could do, but I have another picture that I'll show you in a moment. Can I zoom? Sure, if I try to zoom. Oh, no, that's not the zooming function. Got it. And then I can scroll, right? I can, oops, nope. Where's the thing that I can go move around? Don't worry about it. All right, so I can go this way or that way. Got it. So what you see here, all right, let's start down in the bottom. Okay, patience everyone, thank you very much. Okay, the crossing. That's the approximate location of crossing. This is kind of an somewhat oblique photo. It's the best that we do. So the crossing obviously is there. And this is north-south, more or less. Maybe north is more that way. This is going to be the crossing. And what you see above it, not only here, is a monoculture of something. And then there's another patch you saw above it, and believe me, there's another patch below it, but I just wanted to focus on this. So these are the areas where an old pond used to be, and all these sediments have accumulated there. The stream has cut through, so it's kind of raised it up, so it's not as wet as it used to be. So the stream channel itself has sort of taken the groundwater down, and now you have Japanese knotweed everywhere. And this is like, I wouldn't say it's impassable, but yeah, you better be careful. You're going to get cuts by going through certain times of year. So here's my idea. My idea was, and I know that someone will say, but George, this is wetland disturbance. Yes, for good reason. There are several ways to get rid of knotweed. Some I recommend and some I don't. You can cut it and keep mowing it and mowing it and mowing it and mowing it. Eventually you'll have a lawn and not Japanese knotweed. You can hit it with herbicides. Not the best solution. Or you could excavate it. Okay, that's a better solution, but the problem is that if you look at the research, if it's on dry land, you have to go deep. Some say 4, 5, 6 feet. That's not a good idea. However, if you have a moist situation, which is what it likes here, and that's why you see it in stream banks and in floodplains, and you go down to the groundwater and create a saturated or a semi-permanent hydrologic regime, you're not going to have knotweed. It's an upland plant. So the idea we're here is during the season, like now, or a month before, when the groundwater is low, and hopefully you don't have a hurricane coming, you can go out here and excavate down to the groundwater, and I can't tell you how much that would be. Would that be 2 feet? Would that be 3 feet? That would be something that if the commission was interested for me to pursue, obviously I would give you more information, because this is not enough, I get it. And the idea would be to turn this sea of monoculture Japanese knotweed into a diverse marsh with a perimeter of shrub species. You can have buttonbush in the middle. You can have a variety of species similar to what we're doing in Bolton and another project that Barbara is aware of, and create something that's probably would be the most valuable functioning wetland, portion of a wetland in the entire site. And that would increase the diversity of wildlife to an nth degree. Once you create edge, they will come, especially if they have suitable habitat. So this could be a magnet for wildlife. And there are a lot of wildlife that don't care if they see a car or two going by. And you still have buffers on both sides, landscaping that's going on with the detention basins. That's pretty robust. So that's my idea, and if you want me to further get into it, now or later, I could certainly do that. All right, a few more things, a couple. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers jurisdiction. You probably have heard that there was a Supreme Court decision some time ago, went all the way to the highest court about how to define waters of the United States. And the bottom line was that you have to be connected to a watercourse with permanent flow. So if you're in a situation where you have an intermittent stream and you don't have permanent flow, that's not jurisdictional. But even if it was jurisdictional, because you're less than 5,000 square feet of total disturbance, temporary and permanent, you probably go under self-verification. And because if we went with the mitigation of the knotweed, it's an excavation and not a discharge of fill, it doesn't qualify as disturbance. So, I mean, we've done several of these agricultural ponds and wetlands. As long as we don't put a berm to go in to do it, and we just do it from the side, the course says, go for it. Okay, so in conclusion, saying all these things and reviewing the plans and reviewing the reports, my conclusion is that as it stands now, the plan is not an adverse impact on wetlands or watercourses. And you could all say that not only are the impacts mitigated, but if we go the extra mile here, you're going to have wetlands that are going to end up being more valuable and higher functioning than what's there today. So that's my little spiel, and I appreciate your time, and I'll be open for questions at a later time. Thank you.
So you're not going to share those pictures?
Oh, thank you. Okay. I'm always good for showing pictures. Are they next? I think so. Okay, let's go out. I mean, you have the pictures in front of you, but
Yes.
So, okay. I'm sure the public would want to see what you folks have seen. All right, so this is what I've done, and you can see up here that there's a directionality, so it tells you which way I'm looking at. Here's the central section of the stream channel between the two nearly 90-degree bends. And I'm looking in a northerly, northeasterly direction. So that's looking upstream. So if you can imagine, this is the little section between the two bends. One bend goes out that way. The next picture looks the other way. And that was on August 6th, yeah. Thanks, Peter, I almost forgot. Okay. And after a long time. Okay, so this is just upgrading of the downstream nearly 90-degree, which goes to the left, right? Straight, and then goes to the left. It cuts the corner, and you can see I'm looking in a westerly direction. All right, so then I'm going to go to photo number 3. Again, upstream, did I just look at this? No, that's another one. Another view of the same thing that we saw a moment ago. See if I can do this. Oh, yes, I did want to show you this. So I'm standing, you remember the little peninsula, the green peninsula that goes out? It's on the other, this hump that's on the other side, to the east side of the crossing. So I'm standing kind of on there, and I'm looking in a northwesterly direction up the corridor, and that's your sea of knotweed. One thing about knotweed, yes, people say, well, it does have a pollinator function because there's a lot of flowers. Yes, but the other function is that it basically smothers everything else. All right, 2 more pictures and I'm done. This is number 5. Oh yeah, so this is the stream below the proposed crossing and also below the feeder stream that takes all that stormwater from the subdivision. And you can see this is active erosion, this, especially right here. So whenever you have a storm, let's say, gets the bank full, there's more sediment that goes down. As you can see, a lot of it is accumulated. Some of it has come from all the way to the north, some of it has come turned the corner. But where is all this sediment going? Plum Gully Brook and other brooks downstream. And so fixing the crossing is one of the things that would help minimize that situation. And the final one is just another one of a close-up of the northeast-southwest oriented segment of the proposed crossing. Again, I'm looking southwesterly, and this is the segment between So if you're flowing down the stream, you take a left, that's your almost 90-degree angle. And that's all, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, George. So, Barb has spoken, Ian has spoken, Daniel has spoken, and George, new to the team, also addressed you. And that concludes our formal remarks right now. We're available for address any questions. I know you don't want to give it back and forth. That's good. We'll wait until we get your direction to do so. So the whole team's available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I think we'd like to take in the input, and then we'll sum questions up.
Okay?
Okay, so you had a sign-up list for folks who wanted to speak. Can you?
Yes, there is a sign-up sheet. I believe it's out front. Let me check on that.
We could get an idea how many, and then we'll see how we can accommodate that.
It looks like we have two names here crossed out. So it looks like we have 13 people that would like to speak. 14 people, excuse me.
Okay, that's manageable before midnight, no. So we'll stick with the 3 minutes then. We'll let those 14 folks speak. I do want to remind people here, there's essentially a dual committee here. We wear two hats. One, we have a regulatory function for evaluating the evidence about wetlands impacts and ruling on that. We also are a conservation commission. Our role there is advisory. We can't make a call on that, but we do provide input, and I think we do intend to, as a commission, provide input to other bodies in town about conservation types of issues. So we will be doing some sorting out. We also have received, beyond the comments that we acknowledged at the last meeting, we've received more public comments since August 27th when the commission got their packets. We received those tonight, and I know everyone will have to review those. Okay, all right, so do you want to just call names out?
Sure. The first person on the list is Jean Knapp, 69 Deerfield Lane.
The three, we are going with the 3 minutes, and are you the official button pusher?
Say again?
Doing the timing?
The timing of the, yeah, so that'll be countdown from up there.
Okay, and you do that, or is that this new?
That's controlled over, Nicole controls that.
Nicole has that. I didn't know who was doing that. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jean Knapp. I reside at 69 Deerfield Lane, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to express strong opposition to the proposed filling and disturbance of existing wetlands for the estates at 100 Oakland Road. The applicant and their paid experts have claimed the development has been carefully designed to minimize impacts and will result in a net gain of wetland. They stress temporary disturbances will be restored and new wetlands will be created with native plants to improve ecological function. But this claim simply doesn't reflect reality. Digging up a natural wetland and replacing it with an artificial one isn't equivalent. It may look good on paper, but in practice, we lose something truly irreplaceable. Natural wetlands are incredibly complex ecosystems shaped over decades or centuries. They're home to amphibians, insects, microorganisms, native plants, and essential biodiversity that can't simply be replanted. A 2022 peer-reviewed study published in Wetlands Ecology and Management compared artificial and natural wetlands. The study found created wetlands do not look or function like the natural systems they are intended to replace. Soils in created wetlands had less organic matter content, greater bulk densities, higher matrix chroma, and more rock fragments than reference wetlands. Vegetation, species richness, and total cover were both greater in natural reference wetlands. There was a significant difference in soils and vegetation characteristics between younger and older created wetlands. The evidence suggests, despite efforts to replace disturbed wetlands, the ecosystem may never regain its prior vitality and therefore constitutes an irretrievable and irreversible loss. In other words, even when artificial wetlands are created, they are not true replacements, and even if they eventually begin to function somewhat like a wetland, they do not replace what's lost in the years between, years when habitat is gone, species are displaced, and vital flood control and filtration are reduced. South Windsor's inland wetlands regulations make clear that the agency must minimize wetland disturbance, not simply shift the burden to a theoretical future gain. I urge this agency to reject the idea that a net gain on a developer's spreadsheet equals a net gain for our ecosystem. Please deny this permit and help preserve the environmental integrity, biodiversity, and natural heritage of South Windsor. Thank you. And I've given copies of the study to the commission.
That's appreciated. Thank you.
Next on the list is Joe Palladino, 231 Scott Drive.
I'm sorry, I don't have any comments at this time.
Thank you. Next on the list would be Nathan Morado, 36 Glenwood Road.
Hello, I'm Nathan Morado from 36 Glenwood Road. I am also speaking as opposition to the developments. I am only 20 years old, so I don't have a master's degree in ecology or anything, but I do genuinely really appreciate the remarks. It seems like it's been very well thought out. Apologies. I spent a year in what was called AmeriCorps as a wildland firefighter and a working on ecology. So I've spent weeks pulling invasive garlic mustard, cutting bush honeysuckle. My experience there is that it is very, very difficult to remove invasive species that have been entrenched in a specific place. And the proposed plan of removing the current invasives and putting new native species in is very good. However, any non-native species, or I should clarify, any invasive species would be, it would take over nearly immediately, from what I have seen. I could be wrong on that, but in addition to that, my one other point would be water pollution. I know that soluble nitrates have already been discussed as being diverted to pools and not into the stream, but anything that does get in could be very detrimental. There is, in South Windsor, a pond near, other side of South Windsor, J. Moore's Pond, recently had a dam breach. It was filled in, the water level rose, and there was an algae bloom. It killed nearly all of the fish in it, the whole family of turtles that lived in it, and the family of ducks has since moved out. It will eventually, once the dam is fixed, I believe, return to normal, but these soluble nitrates create the same algae bloom that affected that pond and could very well be detrimental to ponds downstream, such as, I believe it's Vinton's Pond behind Mill on the River, and anything further downstream. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Liam Davis of 178 Scott Drive.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Liam Davis. I'm 17. I live at 178 Scott Drive. And I don't have a lot for you, obviously. I'm 17. I don't have any experience in anything that you guys do, or any majors in anything. So I'll just tell you about a little experience. So I've lived here for 8 years with my family and been blessed to have the view that I do. Every morning I come downstairs, look out the back window, and get to see all the beautiful wildlife outside. We get deer, bear, foxes, and a plethora of other animals. But I don't believe with this being instated I'll see any more of that ever. And even with 12 acres being untouched, it won't really be untouched. I mean, imagine if you guys moved your family out somewhere and it started off fine. You're all there living, but slowly people start drag racing on your street. You got sirens going every night. You hear ominous sounds and like gunshots in the distance. You're smelling smoke. I mean, I don't think you and your family would stay there that long, no matter how untouched you are. So, I mean, it's safe to say those animals won't be sticking around anymore, and they'll be pushed out to other areas, and you might see them on the side of the road since they've been pushed out of their home, forced to cross streets they wouldn't normally have, and probably won't play out the way that they claim it will. And that's really all I have for you. Don't have a ton of experience with anything, so just wanted to share that.
Thank you for your comment.
Next on the list is Hari Subramanian, 57 Windy Hill Drive. Okay. Next on the list would be Shashvad Prakash, 25 Darlene Drive.
My name is Shashwat Prakash. I live in Darlene Drive. My main objection is to the construction entrance that's proposed, and I believe the town engineer already voiced that concern, that it should not be coming through a residential area. And the last meeting, we also raised that concern, and it should be instead through Oakland Road. That's first. And secondly, if you look at the width of these roads in this development, we've been having a really nice summer. I think everyone forgot what winters looks like. We have a very slight uphill in our street. Darlene, it's a really nice wide road. The snow removal, sometimes it's not prompt, right? When it's not prompt, we're pretty much stuck because even the slightest bit of sludge gets so slippery, we're pretty much stuck at home. And no car can make it up that hill. So we're talking about 55 plus, they'll need emergency services. Nobody's been talking about these issues. So those are my concerns. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Michael Bordsley, 119 Scott Drive.
How you doing? Michael Bardsley, 119 Scott Drive. I've lived there for about 10 years, and I can say that it's a really good neighborhood. As Liam was saying, we see a lot of wildlife. Our plots are relatively big with large byways, and animals, you can see them going up through there in the mornings and the evenings. And I can speak from experience with other neighbors who have just modified those areas a little bit, those byways between the houses, how suddenly a whole flock of deer will stop coming through that neighborhood or up through our neighborhood for spells at a time. The gentleman over here was really focusing on the water byway or the water connector there, saying that things would migrate through there while leaving the other 3/4 of the picture out of his explanation. He's saying they're nocturnal animals that will come and go through, mornings and evenings, but if they don't have a place to sleep during the day, they're not gonna be there. And that is the exact area that is gonna impact our neighborhood, and those animals will not be coming through our neighborhoods anymore. So, in addition to that, I always just feel like as a town, we should try to be preserving our areas, not just opening them up for development for the best amount of dollars. And, I also concerned about traffic. 60-something houses does create traffic in a congested area, and those are majorly my concerns. So, thank you.
Appreciate the comments.
Jeff Kift, 210 Scott Drive.
Good evening, Jeff Kieft, 210 Scott Drive. Want to express my concerns over the 100 Oakland Road proposals, including the developer's August responses to the town engineer's questions, particularly on the temporary stream crossing. And if I've misunderstood anything or missed anything, I appreciate clarification from the developers or commission, but wondering why is the temporary crossing only designed for a 5-year storm flow when the town engineer asked if they'd considered a 100-year storm? Why has the developer not yet provided more detailed installation steps for the temporary crossing? I'm wondering how the town commission can properly assess the impact without really detailed installation plans. And why not install a permanent bridge at the beginning of the project? The risks of a temporary crossing include multiple wetlands disturbances over multiple storms during the proposed 2-year life of the temporary crossing. A permanent bridge span would preserve the wildlife corridor along the stream under the bridge and would be more in line with the South Windsor Plan of Conservation, balancing conservation and development. And to completely avoid wetlands disturbance at the stream crossing, it's been suggested that longer steel span bridge designs are available that could minimize the impact on the wetlands. Steel span bridges up to 140 feet long from research are possible. And has that alternative been considered by the developer? It's not clear to me, will the temporary crossing and permanent bridge be in two slightly different locations? That would increase the impact to the wetlands. And are there consequences for the developer if after 2 years they want to extend the use of the temporary crossing beyond its rated 2-year life? Wondering how many 50-plus-year-old trees will be removed from the wetlands by the temporary crossing and permanent bridge installation. That would be a significant stormwater take-up removed if those trees are taken out. And lastly, we've seen that the Foster Street development for 50 houses has cleared a significant amount of vegetation and left exposed soil susceptible to blowing dust and erosion. Concerned about even greater erosion impact on wetlands and properties surrounding the 100 Oakland Road development if the entire site or a large portion of it was cleared all at once for 69 houses. And again, if I'm missing some details, please let me know. It's unclear from plans submitted, will the developer cut down 20-plus acres of trees all at once, or will the tree cutting go in phases with 5 or more development phases? Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy Karen, 188 Scott Drive.
Possible to bring the map up? Don't touch your stuff.
you had a map that showed the corridor and everything, what was that? Oh, the corridor.
Oh, you want to see
Like
the
the
REMA?
bigger one.
You want to see this
No.
this one?
Yeah, can you?
Good.
Oh, yeah, so I'm Billy Carroll, not Karen. I can't spell, so. I live on 188 Scott Drive, and what I want to talk about is the wildlife corridor. So if you can't really see it all, but to the north here, we have the power lines that are coming down through. That's a natural corridor. To the west, there's other power lines that are coming across Sullivan Avenue, right? And then that feeds behind where the condos are on, off Sand Hill Road. And that leads into this site, and then going to the south across Oakland, there's a whole area down there that's natural, natural habitat. And then if you look on the southern side of Farmbrook, that parallels, it's over here, it parallels Oakland, that heads out to the east towards, Foster. And there's a whole corridor through there. So when you were talking about this being an island, you're an expert, I'm not, but to me, that doesn't make any sense because this is a connector for all these other portions of town that come right through this area. Because there is no really other, for the animals to traverse through any of the other areas. The next thing I wanted to talk about was in this, right here. So I noticed on your map, you have the west side of your plot is all still natural habitat, and on the east side, where our house is back up to, you're bringing those homes right up behind our house. Now, I drove around South Windsor and I looked at different areas, like where Cutler Ridge 2 and Cutler Ridge 1 were built. Pine Knob Drive goes down through there, and when the developer put in those houses, you can see the houses, but they're set back farther. So you got at least 100 feet or more of natural tree line, instead of what you guys want to do is wipe everything out and start over. So I suggest that, and maybe it's a P&Z thing, but through here, maybe consider a larger buffer. And I know it takes out some of your homes and everything, but I don't know if there's other ways to rearrange things. But it just doesn't make any sense because over on this side, the west side, you have the cemetery and there's no home. Well, you have your homes over here on Peterson Way, right? But you have all these other homes that are in this whole neighborhood over here. Maybe consider some kind of a buffer. And that's all I have. Thanks. Thanks for the use of that.
Robert McCabe, 57 Gilbert Lane.
That's 56, because I also cannot spell or count, apparently.
Apparently, I can't read because this is clearly 56. I apologize.
All good, thank you. So my name is Robert McCabe. I have lived in South Windsor since I was in 3rd grade, and I'm currently pursuing a master's in ecology at CCSU. I stand here in strong but good faith opposition to this project. I admittedly, some of my concerns were alleviated by some of the comments earlier in the presentation, but the fundamental issues remain unaddressed. For example, I didn't hear anything about a biodiversity assessment, any raw numbers of the type of species of flora and fauna that live there currently versus what would be there post-development, what sort of rebound is expected with this restoration of the knotweed area and what that would look like. And I think it doesn't speak to the fundamental issue, which is that 20 acres of 32 is being developed, and that's roughly 2/3 of the land, and whatever damage is caused by that is not offset by the removal of invasive species, or at least I would not expect it to be. Connecticut is one of the most densely populated states in the Union, and roughly 50% of the land has been transformed. Most of that is in the Central Valley, which is where South Windsor is positioned, and yet, in spite of that, we are home to about 10,000 species of plants and fauna in the state within South Windsor. I've seen everything from black bears and bobcats to two-lined salamanders. I've seen rare species like box turtles and spotted turtles, barred owls, American kestrels, and of course a rich diversity of wildflowers and insects. However, these things are very easy to lose if we are not careful and we do things responsibly. Number one cause of biodiversity loss is the loss of habitat. It is more than pollution, it is more than climate change, it's more than any of that. And the number one cause of biodiversity loss in New England is urban sprawl. It's situations like this. And while people are entitled to housing, in South Windsor, there are laws that make it very difficult for a landowner to unilaterally convert their home into something like a duplex or apartment complex. We economically incentivize people to destroy acres of forest forever rather than to reuse land that's already been developed, like a parking lot, for example. And I think part of the reason why is because we think of environmental protection as like a charity. It's something that feels nice to do. Even people who really care about nature think that way. But maintaining these systems is important for maintaining human life in South Windsor and for everyone who lives there now and generations to come. The only reason why the site is the way it is currently is because of projects like this happening all around it, and that's ultimately how you get more fragmented spaces like this. We need to think critically about what we need to do to undo things like this. Thank you.
We appreciate the comments.
Kathy Intravia, 35 Darlene Drive. James Intravia, 35 Darlene Drive.
Good evening. My name is Jim Intravia from 35 Darlene Drive. Our major concern is the use of Darlene Drive as a construction entrance for this project. I think we saw some engineering reports that says Darlene Drive is not designed for that. It's not conducive. We forbid it, and then I see responses from the developers that says yes, but, yes, but, yes, but, and I'm just trying to get some clarity. Is Darlene Drive going to be used as construction access for large equipment, stuff like that? There are a number of children that play there, a number of homeowners, and it is very dangerous. So that is predominantly my concern. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and that is definitely an issue for planning and zoning, and not within what this commission can regulate.
John McCabe, 56 Gilbert Lane.
Good evening, I'm John McCabe, 56 Gilbert Lane, Bobby's dad. I wanted to make known my strong opposition to this development. It's simply not feasible to take 32 acres of forested land, which is a sensitive habitat, sensitive watershed, and really an asset to the people of South Windsor, and deposit 69 houses on it and mitigate the impact. The only way you can mitigate the impact of this development is by not having the development there. That's an extremely large group of homes in a small area. This will completely obliterate the sensitive habitat is there, destroy the biodiversity, will certainly impact on the 4.3 acres of wetland. Wetland, by the way, is not constricted or bound by a discernible barrier around its margins. It extends outward from its margins. It serves as a sink for an impermeable recipient of rain, which will accumulate and be prone to flooding. If we build walls around this development, that may affect the homeowners in the adjacent sites. In addition, these homes would not be placed there simply with an impact on the native species and invasive species in the area. There would be a tremendous amount of other development that would have to go on, including sewerage, bringing in electrical lines, bringing in water lines. This is all going to impact the area profoundly. We are running out of these small areas and natural woodlands in Connecticut. They're being destroyed. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. If you want to see what you don't want your town to look like, go visit Brooklyn, New York, which is concrete and asphalt from end to end. In the 20 years that we have lived here, there's been a profound change in South Windsor. We came here because we thought it was really a country area, but it has changed extensively. If you go along Buckland Road now, all you see are huge buildings. It really a disgrace to the town to be developing these areas the way we have. I really would implore upon this committee to give serious thought to the irreversible changes that developing this area of 32 acres will have on that area, plus the town. We are just running out of environmental assets. Please give it your deepest consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Marshall Bradway, 38 Darlene Drive.
Good evening. My name is Marshall Bradway, and I've lived at 38 Darlene Drive with my family for the last 7 years. The northern border of my property touches an easement leading to open space owned by the town between my property, 22 Darlene Drive, and 16 Cupchunos Drive. It is of particular relevance because it includes a catch basin from the Rainbow Hills development. Over the last few years, I noticed the catch basin had visibly grown in size, and I recently mentioned it to my neighbor. That neighbor contacted the town, who came out and assessed that the outflow of the catch basin was clogged. The town completed their work, and I have since seen a significant drop in the water level back to how I recall it appearing several years earlier. Before and after pictures were included in my submission for the record. But given the approximation and connection to the catch basin into Plum Gully Brook, the water source running through the 100 Oakland property, I feel it would be appropriate to call into question some aspects of the hydrology-related reports conducted over the last few years that have been provided or used in determination of the existing development plan. This includes those done on location in October 2024, which was already considered a very dry month overall. There could easily be additional impact to the wetlands and wildlife that we may not know for months or even years because of this. As such, I believe there should be consideration of a new study of the impacted sections of Plum Gully Brook, both during the rainy and dry season, to assess any potential impact before any final decision is made on the development. While the overall plan itself is constantly changing, there are still so many unknowns in the existing version, with no significant permanent or temporary bridge details shared publicly, as well as a continued discrepancy between the town statements and the developer firm statements regarding usage of Darlene Drive for construction access. It is a planning and zoning issue, but having to bring heavy vehicles through the bridge area could have impact on the wetlands. The development has quickly become a passionate topic for so many residents of South Windsor, between yard signs, social media posts, and websites both in favor and against the project, including one site that has an informal, unofficial petition with over 500 responses collected in the last 6 weeks from residents opposing this project. I believe South Windsor deserves the best data-informed decision possible, and that can only happen if this agency has all the eligible details to consider. While town regulations may otherwise allow for a decision to be made before many of the aspects of the plans are finalized, I plead that we be thoughtful and that this agency seek more detail about all of the aforementioned wetland-related items before you make your decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So that was the last person on the sign-in sheet. Sure, yeah, just come up and sign in, please.
So I have to sign it?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Donna Murato. I live on 36 Glenwood Road. I don't have anything prepared, but I just wanted to ask why builders want to build on a wetland and something that's going to be detrimental to wildlife. Why can't they pick spaces like abandoned buildings or something like that? Why can't they choose that to build on? Like Geisler's parking lot, that's a ghost town. I don't know what's behind there or whatever, but why can't they use that space instead? We drive through, my family lives in Rhode Island, and on the way there's an abandoned mill. There's tons of abandoned mills all over Connecticut. Why can't they choose that? Why do they have to kill off, I don't know if they're gonna kill off the animals, but it's not fair to the animals. It's not fair to South Windsor. When my in-laws lived here, we lived near Walgreens on Deming Street, and that area was a 4-way stop sign. And now there's a lot of traffic there. So it's just, South Windsor's getting very built up. And I've lived here for 16 years, so I don't know. I just think that there should be other options. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, please. Just sign in the sheet there. Name and address, please.
First, I agree with everything the community members have said. I'm also speaking in opposition to this project. I live at Berry Patch, another destructive development.
Can you please state your name for the record,
I'm
please?
sorry, Doris Phillips.
Thank you.
I live at Berry Patch, another destructive development that took away a lot of natural habitat. On Oakland Street. Oakland Street is full of traffic. It's busy every hour of the day and night. And now we're going to dump 70-plus cars onto that street in the center of town, where there's even more traffic. There's going to require a street light there, and it's otherwise going to be difficult for the people who live there to get in and out. I know, because I have to use a light to get out.
Okay, I just want to, these are planning and zoning considerations, traffic and the congestion. We have to focus on either the wetland or the conservation.
I understand that, and I agree with what the other people in town have said. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Justin, I gave up my time to my husband because he didn't use all of our time. Can I just say 2 seconds?
If you would like to speak, please approach the podium. State your name, your address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Kathy Intravia, 35 Darling Drive. I just wanted to add to what Matthew and my husband said, and I want you to understand, I live in Rainbow Hills, which is the development that is just north, I guess it's north of this property, and because the catch basement has been stopped up, I don't know if you understand the implications, because our neighborhood is on the side of a mountain, basically. And when it rains, all that runoff goes all the way down from Windy Hill, all the way down on the streets, through the drainage, and it ends up in that catch basin. So when I learned that that catch basin was actually blocked, it suggests to me that you have to reevaluate all of the water flow, because it was not proper. It was inconsistent with what's actually going to happen now that that catch basin has been opened up. So I just want you to think about it and look at the drainage facilities for the Rainbow Hills development, which is upstream from this development. Thank you.
If you'd like to speak,
All right,
please approach.
I think this will be the last ad, because I want to get to the commission's questions so they can all be answered.
Corey Davis, 178 Scott Drive. I'll be real quick. I submitted an email to this agency through the planning department on Monday, but I just wanted, for the benefit of the audience and the audience at home, SaveSouthWindsor.org had launched a petition online, and we got 522 South Windsor residents who have said that they would like this agency to deny the wetlands permit for this project. The overwhelming response shows complaints are not just from abutters. They've come from every corner of town, reflecting a deep and sustained public desire to preserve the wetland. It's your responsibility to protect the public and the environment. In the wetlands regulations, it says the Inland Wetlands Agency exists to protect the public interest by safeguarding our natural resources. Your duty isn't to serve the interests of a single developer, but to uphold the health, safety, and environmental well-being of the entire community of South Windsor. In the public interest means your obligation is to listen to your residents, those who live here, raise families here, pay taxes here, and to act in their best interest. The developer may have a proposal, but you have a responsibility to protect our wetlands and water courses from unnecessary, undesirable, and poorly understood impacts. And one more thing. I encourage the commissioners during your question and answer period to ask questions of the wetland scientists you have here. Specifically, are you party to or the target of a current or recent enforcement action by the United States Environmental Protection Agency? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'd like to give an opportunity to the commission to put questions to the applicant for them to, not to answer immediately, but to record so that we'll get responses both to the public and to the commission. Okay. Anyone want to start?
Can you turn your mic on and speak directly into the mic, please?
Right here? Yeah, I'd like to go to the packet that was received on August 29th. That's going to be from page 1 to page 42. I'd like to go to page 17. I don't know who I addressed the team itself, but I'd like to go to the bridge, page 17 of 42, and that would be CGD 5. I'm looking at, if you want to bring it up, I don't know if you got it up there.
Yeah, so that's this plan here, sir.
So it'd be page 17 of this packet right here, Jameson? It's right here?
Yes. So this is like a colored version of that.
What's that?
This is a colored version of that plan, if I'm not mistaken. Well, you know what? Let me just open that plan. I want to make sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Page 17.
That would be page 17.
Where did the mouse go? Where did the mouse go? There it is. All right. Yeah.
There you go. Great.
Okay.
What I'm looking at that AEC, Primary Coconut Slope Application Detail.
Yes, sir.
Which is in the left-hand side corner. Could you give us a little explanation about that whole procedure right there? And then I'm looking also, it's also found, again, with a different type of detail. I don't know which one you want to address. That would be on 31 of 42. That might be a little bit more helpful to all of us. Could you give us a little explanation, you know, the history about that blanket of erosion and go from there? That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, so I can certainly do that. So yes, it is the same detail. So I'll go back to the stream crossing relocation plan. But essentially it is a woven or created woven fabric of coconut husk, essentially. And coconut husk is very good at providing a kind of a mat for grass and landscape or planting material to get established in while holding down the bare soil till it has a chance to get those roots established inside of it. We like the coconut core because it lasts for a good while, but it also does degrade over time. So it provides that initial stabilization to protect the bare earth, allow the plants and seed mixes to get established, but then it doesn't like remain like a wire or plastic wire mesh would. So that's why we like this coconut fiber and why we call it out for protection of the slopes around development. For the stream crossing, we're proposing it around essentially in the areas indicated with this hatching here. All of these banks will be protected with erosion control matting. And then on the plan, and any slopes proposed over 3 to 1, which is essentially along the bank adjacent to the abutment, if I was to zoom out here. So we are proposing some, a little bit over 2 to 1, not exactly 2 to 1, not as steep as 2 to 1, but slightly softer than a 2 to 1 slope. But off this south or west of the secondary road, after you cross the bridge, we have some 2 to 1 slopes there that would be protected with that erosion control matting. And then there's another 2 to 1 slope area in this, on top of this wall here, that would also be protected by that erosion control matting. And then there's additional plant material planted in that area to also stabilize that slope. So that's what it's for, stabilization of the slope.
I guess I have one more, with that last 2 years, with the amount of rainstorm that we have, because, I'm looking at a 2-year period of a temporary crossing. Would that last 2 years or more, that blanket itself?
Yes, I believe it's a 24-month has a lifespan of 24 months, so it should last there, but well long enough for the soil to get. The real key is that the grass gets established and the vegetation grows, so it'll last long enough for that to happen for sure.
And the other one, I think I brought up the concern too, that was on page 41 or 42. I still don't feel very comfortable with how we're addressing this retaining wall, and that would be on the east side, on the backside of all the Scott Drive residents. I know you're showing a temporary wall
yes.
of 14.8 with a fence on it, and then I see another one at 15.8. Is that a guarantee them walls are going to be that height, or is it just with the grade itself? We haven't done any grading over there yet, so that's my concern on these walls.
Understood.
And what is the soil stability without us having any really solid plan on the retaining wall itself?
Understood. So we spoke with the wall manufacturer or supplier, and basically the rule of thumb is you provide for every foot that you go up, you need to have a foot back to allow for the construction of that wall. And then with that, the wall is proposed to be, I believe, I don't want to speak, but it's over 25 feet away from the property line to allow for this wall to be built to the height to allow the existing grades to be maintained at the top. Now, preliminarily, Ready Rock provides these details to use for design guidance, but without, for the next step of design plans, which we would love, our intent is to get through the approval process first, and then we would work with engineering to submit plans where they would review the design of the wall, the final engineering, and then if there's anything that, well, the wall doesn't really affect the wetlands, but if there was any erosion control-wise that, the staff or thought would require further review, we would come back to you for that review.
And this will be my last question, so the other members can have a chance. I'm looking at the memo which came out today on September 2nd, and it's addressed to Michelle and Audrey, Autumn, from Jeff Doolittle. I'm looking at number 17.
Okay.
I still think the slope around, I still think the slopes around and between the houses should be no steeper than 4H.1.V. The steeper slopes around the house are subject to erosion and more difficulty to maintain and are not likely by the residents. The town frequently has complaints from residents about the sloping at 4H or steeper results from work on the road and sidewalks. So this has been brought up, I guess, through a lot of different packages, even in the August 14th to now. So, that's something, I'd like to see a little bit more addressed. I know you guys are going to come back again after reading this with more submittals.
Yes, and I mean, we remain in the opinion that 3-to-1 slopes are comfortable to walk on and also to mow and maintain. We have projects where we propose 3-to-1 slopes and have seen that those slopes are able to get established with vegetation and therefore would control the potential for erosion. So while the town engineer is expressing that concern, it is our opinion that the 3-to-1 slopes have the ability, since with our prior knowledge on the construction of those slopes, in particular with these soils, we had a project that used soils from the gravel pit just to the north of this property, and with steeper slopes, we were able to get vegetation established on it with this same soil type material. So with that, you know, we respect the town engineer's comment, but it is our opinion that the 3-to-1 slopes are comfortable to walk and also would be mobile, maintainable, and could establish vegetation.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we have the town staff comments that may still be outstanding. I'd like at least to get through everybody's questions on the commission, and then if there's time to answer individually, I don't want to end up not getting all that information out, because I'd like to be able to have the applicant put together consolidated responses by the
Understood.
next time we convene.
Sounds good.
So, John, you don't have any right now or after? Okay.
I have some concerns about would like to see more details on the temporary crossing and of how it's being put in, you know, how much fill is going to be involved with it, what the slopes are going to be involved with it. And also, it appears that the permanent bridge and the temporary crossing effectively occupy the same location of how you are going to be transitioning between the two. And also, if there's at least some tentative information as to what the abutments are going to be like, how tall, how much clearance under the bridge. Realize you may not have the exact numbers, but if you're dealing with a pre-designed, prefab bridge, you should be able to have some reasonably good preliminary design aspects of what the abutments are going to look like and how tall they're going to be.
Along with that, on the temporary abutment, essentially, that's like reestablishing the old farm dam that was there. You're going to be blocking the channel for a 2-year period. We're asking the volume of the film. But I'd like the soil and wetlands folks to address impacts of that and then impacts of a removal process. Okay.
The other thing is, and I don't remember which of the many, many things that I read in the last couple of days, but there was a comment about that the utilities and piping are now going to be buried under the stream rather than hung from the bridge. And we have no information as to how the stream, you know, how they are going to do the stream crossing.
Along with that, could you also locate the access down to the stream bed for doing the work, the construction access? That's a pretty steep slope, particularly on the west side.
Yeah, that's true. Not only what is it going to look like when finished, but how you're going to do it. sure I've missed something, but I'm not seeing it in my notes at the moment.
I'll go on my notes and it may
Okay.
spark you. Just curious, on the final bridge, what will the height of the bottom of the bridge be above the stream? Will Mr. Logan's knotweed plan mitigation be added to the plan? The restoration of the knotweed areas, will that be added to the plan? That was in there as a recommendation? Yeah, I guess, and it might be on the town's end, I guess I'd look for consideration. What kind of bonding would it take to cover removal of fill if a temporary crossing is used? Yes, Jim?
As I understand, our mandate is twofold. The first part is to manage the inland wetlands, but the second part is conservation of trees and wildlife. And I haven't heard very much about that. We spend most of our time on this wetlands. So my question is, how many trees are there that they're going to cut down?
All right.
If you're going to speak, please approach the podium
All
and
right.
state your name.
Well, we'll take this one comment, but I don't want back and forth right now. I want to list our questions.
So if that's how you'd like to do it, then we can wait until the commissioners voice their opinions and then.
He's up there now, so we'll let him answer
Are you
the
sure?
question.
Okay.
Exception for now.
I'm Ken Hinks. I live at 200 Scott Drive, and in answer to your question, gentleman that was here before, Bob, was a forester. We talked about this, and he estimates 50, we'll say mature trees that are over 50 years old per acre. Well, 20 acres times 50 is 1,000 trees, and that's good-sized trees, not saplings. Okay?
Okay, thank you. The other was, did we want to ask for info on alternatives? Want to wait? Okay, all right. We'll go down the line. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I looked at the drainage report, and the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual is pretty specific on what you have to do to manage flow off, impervious coverage. That's going to have sediments and things like that in it. This plan is heavily controlling the runoff from the impervious cover areas by using infiltration. Even to such an extent that you can even, if you look at the numbers in the report, see that there really is going to be no flow coming out of any of the sediment basins, 1 and 2 anyway, for a 25-year storm. And, Basin 3, which is the one that really gets the lion's share of the impervious from the eastern development section, it overachieves really the requirement in the manual. The manual says you have to be able to contain 1.3 inches of the first flush kind of, and settle out the sediments. And this is what the sediment pond does. And your sediment ponds not only do that, but it infiltrates all the flow. Seeing that you're relying so much on these ponds handling all, and I think you'd find that there really isn't any increase in flow off this property up to a 100-year storm. I mean, there's no more flow going off. you've made conservative estimates are really what your infiltration is. You've used other conservative things, but it relies on those basins. And my real question is, what's the maintenance on the basins? What's the long-term life? What can we expect? You know, we've heard people talk about the basins in their area, how they plug up, and I see basins that are just loaded with phragmites and all. They're not functioning like they were when they were designed. I just wonder what, you know, this development has for maintenance, long-term maintenance plan on the basins, because it's going to be required, because there's no other way that they're handling it. You know, you're not designing it to run off the property. You're designing it to be almost all infiltrated. So is there, you know, I'm sure maybe somewhere in this whole stack there's a maintenance plan. But I mean, it ought to be a maintenance plan the association buys into and the town can enforce.
All right, Jeff?
Excuse me. Since we are in a public hearing, and the reason for the public hearing was the potential for impact on the wetlands and watercourses, one of the main things we are legally required to do is have a finding of no prudent and feasible alternatives. And so far, there's been a rather lack of discussion of alternatives, and what led to the conclusion that there weren't options compared to what's being planned. A couple that I thought of that could potentially reduce impact is things like, you know, build the permanent bridge from the start, or possibly eliminate the need for the crossing there by coming in from Ellington Road. That's, you know, near or at the corner of Peterson Way.
Are you suggesting that leads to that existing crossing?
Yeah, that would be,
Okay.
you know, you'd have a much smaller, less impactful crossing, much easier slopes with a crossing, you know, at or near the current existing crossing. And that way the current existing crossing could be used as the construction entrance.
When you're, to clarify, when you're saying build the bridge first, the bridge and/or construction on the west side?
Yes.
In order to
In other
get
words,
time?
eliminate the need for the temporary crossing, temporary filled crossing, by having the bridge available to use immediately.
All right. Are there other questions of the, okay. So there's been a lot. Yes.
One thing we talked about in the previous public hearing was the runoff from Scott Drive that is causing, you know, based on the wetlands science analysis, causing a lot of harm to the southeastern portion of the wetlands. This is a Scott Drive problem that, you know, I don't know how regulations were back when Scott Drive was built, but they just dumped the water into, you know, Mr. Newberry's property. And, you know, a lot of the hand-wringing we have about really the conditions of wetlands is being caused by not his means. It's some other input. And I know we talked about when construction is underway to do something to address that problem, but, you know, I don't know what power the town has to get that piece of the problem solved, but, you know, it ought to be not forgotten, you know, either way, you know, whether this application goes forward or not. The wetlands is being adversely affected, and it will continue to deteriorate. It's a mess. It's typical of what happens when good-intentioned farmers build things, and then they walk away. Nature finds its own way of tearing things up, and not in a good way. But we ought to think about really how to handle that Scott Drive problem somewhere along the line here.
And I think the applicant had previously offered access. It would be town responsibility to do the work on those. If I understood that right, I see a head nodding in response. Okay. So it looks like we would need to continue this public hearing to get the answers to questions, responses to concerns raised. I am going to throw out next week as a possible meeting date to the commission to see what you think.
I think there are some distinct advantages to having a special meeting next week, if, you know, assuming the applicant thinks that they can be ready, mostly due to the availability of personnel who will not be around after that, most specifically the chair.
I know, yeah, I've been here from the beginning, but I know then I will be away. So just for the continuity of the folks hearing this.
So if we have a special meeting next week.
Would we have a quorum? I want to confirm we'd have a quorum. Would you, this would be the only item on the agenda, would be to address this public hearing and any subsequent business.
Can I make a motion for a special?
Well, I'd like to do a poll to make sure first.
Yeah.
So you are you saying yes or no?
No for next Wednesday.
No.
I will not be available.
You're no. Yes. I guess.
Yeah.
Correct. So I guess we'll ask the applicant, would you be prepared with answers prior to next Wednesday to the questions and issues raised to?
That's a short time frame.
Yes.
We are available that night. We should be able to answer most of your questions. We don't know if we'll be able to answer them in that time frame, all of them, and come up with a design for all of them. That would be a tough one. And also, if we have to do it in advance to have town staff review it, to get a report to you, that means we'd have to have it in probably by Friday.
Okay, then.
And
all right, then I'd ask the commission, what's the feeling?
the looks I've had from staff.
I don't want to have it not answered and have to have this continue on. Yeah. So I guess then the answer would be the regular meeting. 2 weeks. The regular meeting in 2 weeks.
Continue it to the meeting on the 17th.
I will miss you all.
Can, just 1 second, please. Is it okay if Attorney Pearson just addresses you about the time frame? Attorney Pearson, who's the attorney for Jim Newbury and the development, would like to address you just about the time schedule.
Well, Robin Pearson, for the record, I confess that we had anticipated if this was continued, it would be to the 17th. We understand the conflict issue that we've got. We obviously want to have all of you who have been sitting on this to be available for the next public hearing. I do believe we have used,
The commission seems comfortable with the 17.
for 9/17? Yes, but my understanding is, Madam Chairperson, you're not going to be able to be here?
I won't be, I guess, if I have info to submit or comments, I guess I'll have to just submit them in.
Through the staff.
Through staff and in writing in advance. And the vice chair will have to take, and the rest of the commission will be available? And we'll,
Yep.
17, you will? Okay, and we will have a quorum, okay.
We still, by my computations, and I don't know if staff has gone through this, I see that we have, we've used 27 days of our 65-day extension that's allowed to get to the 17th.
Okay.
So we still have time if it's necessary after that.
Okay.
And clearly, we would want to be sure that we've done a thorough analysis of the questions that have been raised by you and by the public, and that we have comprehensive responses for you, and that we have, unfortunately, the thing that takes a while are the plan details to be able to draw up, especially you've asked some very serious questions about the bridge abutment and the design and construction access and things like that. That's going to take a bit of time to put together. And so we're willing to work with you on your schedule. We think we could get plans in and have staff have enough time to review by the 17th? Your engineer is saying yes. That's 2 weeks.
2 weeks till the next meeting.
Till,
So information in essentially
yes,
within
and
about a
maybe
week.
there'll be more work that's needed to answer your questions and the questions of the public, but we could make a really good effort to get everything in and have enough time for staff, your engineering staff and Autumn, to be able to look at everything.
Okay.
So we're thinking about the 17th for our next,
So it will be at, it will not be a special meeting, it will be at the
your
regular
regular
meeting.
meeting.
And, okay, so do I have,
That works for us. Thank you.
do I have a motion to continue the public hearing?
Move to continue the public hearing to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, I see no new business on the agenda, no old business. We have an application. Our meeting is still in session, folks, please. We're continuing on with other business. We have an application received that we will put on the agenda. Well, do you think you want it on the agenda at the next meeting or the following?
I'd say
The October meeting?
I would say postpone it to the following meeting.
Okay. All right. So we will put the application 25-41W will go on to the October meeting.
That's the 184 Foster Road one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a farm?
What's that?
Is that for a farm operation?
It was a, yeah, it was an accessory, right, it was a barn, accessory structure.
For a farm operation?
No, it's residential.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
all right.
So you would want to move that, you would want to, it's received tonight, and then how do you want to handle that? You want to put that on October?
October.
Yeah, because you'll need to make a determination if a public hearing is required for that. There is wetland filling associated with that, so
Oh, so we would have an opportunity to put that on the agenda for a determination at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't we do the determination at the next meeting and then
So you
we'd
would
hear
want
at
to
the
do the
meeting
determination at the 17th?
Usually, we would want more information to know if we need the determination. If we don't need a determination, it can go on the October.
Right, so.
But if we will need a determination, that'll be on next meeting.
Understood, yeah. So in light of what we were expecting such a large turnout, we did not believe that there was going to be, you need a regular meeting to make the determination.
Yes.
So I did not want to put on there that a determination was required. I just wanted to say that it will be received tonight.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so then at the 17th, if the public hearing closes and you go into a regular meeting, then you could make the determination if the public hearing is required for that.
So we should look at if there's
Under new
enough
business.
impact and make a judgment ourselves whether we need that determination or not.
What if you don't have anything else for that meeting? I mean, if you don't put that on the meeting for the October, what happens if there's nothing else? You're gonna come in just make a determination?
You need your
No,
mic
no.
on.
If there's a determination needed, it'll be made at the September 17th meeting. Someone needs to look at the plan
Yeah.
and figure out.
As long as you're in a regular meeting, you can make that determination.
Correct.
Yes.
And if,
And then if necessary, it'll be a public hearing on the October meeting. If not, it'll just be hearing
Right.
the application. Okay.
Right.
Now we need one final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you, thank you. And I really appreciate Nicole for hanging in there and getting all the info down like you did last time, and I'm sure I could see you going this time.
yeah, Nicole synthesized a ton of information, piled all that stuff together. She did a great job.